Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, am I the jerk for telling my parents I refuse to go to church with them for Christmas? I'm previously divorced. Within the first several months of my first marriage, we had major problems and my ex ended up going to jail. He refused any marriage counseling and he walked out after 10 months of being married. It was horrible for my whole family. After some time and significant therapy, post-divorce, I met a wonderful man and we dated for a couple of years. My parents seemingly were upset that I was dating in general and went out of their way to be rude to him, but never offered an explanation. Last spring, we decided to marry with a short engagement, 6 months, because we want to have kids together, but we're both close to 40 years old. Before our engagement, I started the emotionally taxing process of petitioning the church for an annulment of my first marriage, which to this day is still pending. My parents firmly said I'm not allowed to marry and I have to honor my previous vow. When I said I'd marry anyway, my parents' behavior worsened. First, they wouldn't come stay at my house because we are committing adultery. They live out of state. Then they scheduled a conference call with me and my now husband, who isn't Catholic, to try and convince him not to marry me. When that didn't work, they refused to come to our wedding and publicly asked other members of my family not to attend because I'm not honoring my previous vows. Almost everyone came anyway, but it was disappointing. I've tried really hard to take the high road, but it's hard when they continue to act proud of what they did, like the boycott was God's great virtuous work, all whilst liking and commenting on my wedding photos, saying how beautiful I look. In an effort to mend fences, when my parents asked to stay with us for a week during Christmas, I obliged with the understanding that I'm not going to church with them this year. Shortly after arriving, my mom cornered me at breakfast asking what masses I was going to. I made it clear in a handful of words that I'm not going, just like I said a few weeks ago. She looked surprised and said, "I didn't think you were serious." Out of sheer exasperation, I told her that I don't want to attend mass with people who used faith as a reason to rally people against me. She was taken aback and changed the subject. Later that day, my dad insisted I needed to apologize for talking to my mom like that. I said I answered the question with honesty and that I refused to be strong-armed now that they were in town to change my stance. He told me several times that my annulment wouldn't have been declined if I involved him, borderline implying that it's my fault it's been denied, and then went on to resort to name-calling, fallen away Catholic, when I still declined to go to Mass. He ended with sharing that they never would have stayed with me if they had known I wasn't going to go to church. I said that if they're that uncomfortable here, they're welcome to stay somewhere else in the future. Am I the jerk for not going to church with them? Am I the jerk for agreeing they should stay somewhere else? Update. Thank you everyone for your support. I went no contact today. In no small part thanks to the overwhelming response here. Here's to a healthy new year. Not the jerk. Your parents sound insane. Also, if you're divorced and not very religious from what you said, why are you bothering with an annulment? It's just more stress and work, and honestly, it means nothing in the real world. OP. Annulment should be about healing and closure, which I would have liked. This hasn't been the case for me, which is a whole different dissertation about how let down I feel about the Catholic faith as a whole right now with its current leadership. It's a tough spot trying to not throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's not the faith that's bad, it's the people representing it. Am I the jerk for ruining Christmas and being upset the only gifts I got from my family were joke gifts? Background. My family likes to play pranks with Christmas and birthday gifts. It's nothing new. I, 21 female, as well as my 5 siblings, from 29 to 37 years old, have all been pranked on our birthdays and on Christmas, and it's usually 1 or 2 gifts. This Christmas, though, I was the only person to get all joke gifts. For example, I unwrapped a MacBook for my brother, but when I opened it, it was just some chocolate, which I don't eat, so I gave it away. And the MacBook was actually given to my sister inside a bag that she wanted. Another gift was what I thought was a book I put on my Christmas list. It was actually just the book cover put on a dictionary. When I asked my mom about the book, she told me that she gave it to my sister-in-law. This went on with each present my siblings or parents had given me. AirPods was just a charger block. Adapter? Gift cards that were used and had 0 balance. A card with Monopoly money, and so on, totaling to about 12 joke gifts. I realized I went out of my way to get everyone something they wanted or they'd like, but I didn't get anything. At this point, I was bummed so I went to the living room to watch TV with my boyfriend. At dinner, they were all talking about how much they loved their gifts, and when my dad asked why I hadn't said anything about mine, I said there wasn't much to say. Everyone but my boyfriend laughed, and my mom said it was no big deal, as everyone else also got some joke gifts. I told her every gift I got was a joke gift, and that the ones they got were also followed by real ones. My dad told me I needed to relax, as I'm making a big deal about it, and I'd have next Christmas to get this stuff on my list. Not wanting to go back and forth, I told my boyfriend I wanted to leave, and we can spend the rest of Christmas break with his family, then go home. My family got mad and told me not to go and to just stay because it wasn't serious. I left and put my phone on Do Not Disturb during the drive, and by the time we got to my boyfriend's parents' house, I had several missed calls and texts from them, calling me names like ungrateful, sensitive, and childish. They said I ruined Christmas and made my parents upset because I left. The next day, I exchanged and opened gifts with my boyfriend and his family, and one of the gifts I had gotten was the book I wanted, the book my mom pretended to give me. I posted it on my Instagram story, and not even 0 minutes after posting it, my sister sent a screenshot of my story to the family group chat, and they basically got mad at me for leaving and telling me I ruined Christmas over some presents. They told me I owe everyone, especially my parents, an apology because my mom spent New Year's sad because of my actions. Now I just want an outside party to tell me if I'm the jerk here. Am I in the wrong for being upset about the gifts and for leaving? After reading their messages and sitting on this for a few days, I'm now feeling like maybe I was upset over nothing and I need to apologize to them. Edit. My Christmas list did not include any expensive gifts, nor was I upset I didn't receive expensive gifts. I was merely upset because of being pranked with everything I got and being the only person who didn't get a real present at all. Another thing I'll address is I didn't do anything to my family which would warrant them to do this. The last big argument I had was with my sister, which was over a year and a half ago. Thank you for the replies, and I'll try my best to reply while I'm at work. One more edit. I participated in joke gifts when I was a kid, haven't participated in the last 10 years because I don't enjoy it or find it funny, which they do know. Don't apologize. Your family sucks, and you have done nothing wrong. I would write something like this in the group chat. Happy New Year, guys. I understand that Mom is sad that I left on Christmas, but you need to understand that you all made me sad on Christmas Day. I did not receive a single thoughtful gift from you guys, not one. Every single gift I opened was a prank where the joke was that you actually didn't get me something I would like, but something intentionally to upset me. My hope is that you all just didn't realize that every single gift you gave me was meant as a joke, but it was, every single one. It isn't being ungrateful to be disappointed in that, and I think you all know that. I'm ready to move on from this disappointing Christmas and to believe that next year will be different, but I will not be apologizing for leaving on Christmas when you all did this to me. How do I, 24 male, get my dad, 52, to realize that his wife, who's 38, is not my mom and to quit pressing a relationship? My mom passed when I was 14. I was always closer with her than my dad, so I took it really hard and I still miss her every day. My dad moved on extremely quickly. I'm talking about 1.5 months later, and he was openly dating his current wife. I suspect he was cheating on my mom. She moved in 4 months after my mom's passing. Then 9 months after her passing, they announced their engagement on my birthday as one of my gifts. I obviously didn't take it well. Made a scene, dumped the cake they got me, and walked out. I disappeared for a few days until they were about to put out a missing persons runaway report. I was forced to go back. They tried to get rid of all the evidence of my mom, pictures, personal effects, memories, and others. I kept what I could and I hid some others. They wouldn't let me celebrate her birthday or anything to do with my mom. They tried to force me to call my dad's wife my mom, but I never did. They would ignore me when I called her by her name. They would introduce herself as my mom. I would correct her every time. It got to the point that I stopped talking to her unless it was absolutely necessary, or if I was correcting her. These talks were usually one-word answers. My dad got angry every time I didn't call her mom, used her first name, or introduced her as dad's wife. I once spent 2 weeks not talking to either of them when I was 16 because I was ruining their family dynamic. Until I can be part of the family, there was nothing to say or do as one. They caved at about the 15th day of no communication or interaction. I turned 18 and left for uni and went extremely low contact and didn't go back. When I was 21, I got engaged to my fiance. She knows about my relationship with my dad and his wife. She respects it and is on my side. When they found out, my dad and his wife had a fit. They didn't know I was seeing anyone. My dad's wife posted on social media saying she was excited that her son, me, was getting married with a bunch of other things, saying she can't wait until she becomes a grandma. I made a short post saying I'm not and never was her son, and she won't be a grandma to any future kids. My dad got mad, saying that I was disrespecting my mother and embarrassing her. I asked who we were talking about because my only mother, the real, only biological one that gave me life, and at this point, I lost both of my parents on that day when I was 14. That was 3 years ago, and we went back to low and no contact. But my wife is about 8 months pregnant now. They showed up at my house. I never gave them my address. They wanted to talk and meet my wife. I didn't let them in and said to turn around and go back to where they came from. But apparently, they decided they wanted to move to my city and state to be closer and repair the relationship between us. She said she missed her son and wanted to be a better mom and grandma. I called them delusional and told them to leave, and I slammed the door. They bought a house about 5 minutes away from us. This has all been way too much for me, and my therapist wants me to let them in, but I would rather cut all contact. It wouldn't be so bad if they would just stop trying to replace my mom and acting like she never existed. I honestly don't know much about my dad's wife. I don't even know if I know who my dad is anymore. My wife is struggling to support me emotionally and doesn't know how to help. Please, internet strangers, how do I convince them, dad and dad's wife, that she is not and will never be my mom? ETA, about my therapist. He said I should try to express my true feeling towards them in a non-hostile and threatening manner. Do it in a way that is constructive but gets to the point. Learn more about my dad and his wife and get to the root of who they are and how they feel about the situation. But I'm going to find a better therapist. Update. To answer some questions and to clarify, my wife, me, and our unborn baby are doing good overall. My wife is over being pregnant at this point. Our baby should be here in the coming weeks. I did find a new therapist. I called to cancel the rest of my appointments on the books, and he did not take it well, so I have put in a complaint. I met with my new one, and I like her a lot better. I feel like I'm actually being heard and actually getting the help I need. I want to make this clear that I'm 24. My dad's wife is 38, 14 years older than me. My dad is 52, 14 years older than his wife. So when she entered my life, I was 14 and she was 28. There were also theories about how my dad might have had something to do with my mom's passing. That's not the case, but I still believe they were together before she passed. I'm investing in a security system, but it will be a few weeks until they can install it. But for now, we have a doorbell cam and some cheaper cameras. Social media. Since the post about her being excited about being a grandma, how my wife and I are getting engaged, we have locked down all social media. My wife and I are not active on any platforms anymore, except for messaging or sharing pictures. We found a leak as well. It's my brother-in-law, wife's sister's husband. We had a family dinner where we had planned on working on the birthing plan. Brother-in-law was insistent on being there, which was odd as he was not a part of it to begin with. While we were waiting for my mother-in-law to get home, I shared what happened between my dad and how it made me and my wife feel. Brother-in-law got visibly uncomfortable. But when we called him out on it, he denied it, but it was obvious. Sister-in-law called him out and he broke down. He said he had been talking with them because we need all the family support we can get, and they should know their grandbaby. This caused an argument. It ended with sister-in-law moving out and staying with us. They have no kids and had some issues. I think it's over for them. I will never trust him. Our birthing plan has been locked down and secure, made a day later without brother-in-law. But we have some just-in-case crazy showing up plans. Everyone who needs to know the plans and details knows. And now, it's surprisingly hard to get a protection order. Technically, what they have done is not against the law yet. They are perceived as no real danger at this time since there were no threats made, and they left when asked to. They have free will to move wherever they want. Also, since a family member gave another family member my address, it's fair game. In regards to the grandparents' rights, it's only when my wife and I have lost custody or are unable to take care of them. But my mother-in-law and father-in-law will be taking on that role if needed. My wife and I are not in a position to move. We just bought our house when interest rates were low, and my in-laws helped with the down payment. It's nothing massive, but it is home and perfect for our starter family. My dad and his wife are unable, shouldn't, have kids. I don't know from which side made it impossible, so that may be why the constant pressure. I did write my dad a letter summing up why I want no contact, how I feel about what they did, how his wife is not my mom and she never will be. If I feel like giving them a chance, it's on my and my family's terms. Specify that my family is me, my wife, and any possible kids moving forward. They are not to talk to my wife or I at any time unless it's through our lawyer. He can decide what information to pass on. They're not welcome around us at any point, including our house, school, daycare, social gatherings, birthdays, Christmas, barbecues, etc. As well as in public, we are strangers. Keep space and act like we don't exist. If they break this, they will get a follow-up letter, up to and including a protection order. Update. My dad and his wife tried to show up at the hospital. Still not sure how they found us or knew where we were, but staff blocked them and covered for us. A bunch of you said that we would start running into them randomly around the town, mainly grocery shopping in stores. Even if I drove out of my way, we would sometimes bump into one or both of them. Law enforcement still says that they're not doing anything against the law and don't seem dangerous or malicious. We did our best to ignore them or stay home or have a family member get the items. My therapist has sure earned her paycheck for the last few months. My lawyer is trying their best, but the laws I feel are against us. Innocent until proven guilty, or in this case, nothing is dangerous until after it is. Or hurry up and wait until something bad happens, then we might do something. It's super frustrating. And now we moved. Now I never want to do that again. Good family helps, but with a newborn and crazy people around, it was still stressful. I know it doesn't sound possible, and I'm still in disbelief, but my in-laws are amazing and got us in contact with a friend of theirs. Long story short, these friends wanted to downsize since all of their kids moved out. Told in-laws and brought them over. We ended up coming up with a really good deal. Our new home is bigger on more land, but needs a lot of work. It's still baby-friendly though. It's old and outdated, but we've been making it ours. We're not rich by any stretch. We have good networks around us. I'm also doing 99% of the work to the house myself. Sister-in-law moved in and helped us make it possible. Since moving, we haven't seen my dad or his wife. That was until about 2 weeks ago. My lawyer contacted me saying my dad reached out and wanted to talk. I tried to say hard pass, but they advised me by saying, I think it would be in your best interest. We set up a date and time in public. 3 days later, I was at a coffee shop and we met up. Even though we were early, they were waiting for us. It was just my wife and I. Also a paralegal from my lawyer's office undercover. I could see the disappointment in their eyes that our baby did not come with us. It started awkward. They started some BS small talk, but I just said, what do you want? Well, my dad's health is not well and it's going downhill steadily. May have about 2 years left at the most. They showed scans, doctor's notes, tests, and other items to prove it. It was quiet the entire time they talked, and all I could think about is, that sucks for him. It was like getting news that someone you knew of when you were a kid passed or is sick, like a neighbor or an old babysitter. For me, no real emotion or feelings, because I feel like I didn't have a real connection with him. My wife knew I was irritated and tried to silently calm me down. When they were done, I said something to the effect of, I'm sorry this happened to you. I hope you get better. Then I got up to walk out. His wife opened her mouth to say something like, That's it? That's all you have to say? You owe it to him to… I didn't let her finish and I went off on them. I said everything that I had been saying in my head for years, a practice monologue I started when I was a teen. Highlights include, but are not limited to, how he owed me more than anything, how he ruined any type of relationship the moment he stopped using his brain, when he tried to erase my real and only mom. Then I finished with, my real mother passed when I was 14. Pretend I did as well, because that's when he, my dad, became dead to me. Now, looking back, I find it in a way funny that my 5'4" wife was holding back a 6'3", 200-pound plus guy, but they kinda looked like fish opening and closing their mouth. My wife then escorted me away. When we got to the car, I had my second panic attack, but since then, things have been quiet but still fresh. I'm struggling but working through it. When my wife notices me zoning, she just hands me our kid and things get better. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and may your life be blessed. Am I the jerk for not having a child until my husband agrees to my 4th requirement? I'm 28 female, and my husband, who's 29 male. We got married 9 years ago, while we were both still in college. We never talked about having kids. Our relationship progressed quickly, leaving out many important topics. My husband also never expressed a strong desire to be a father, but I know he likes kids and gets along well with our nieces and nephews. But since last year, he surprised me by saying he wanted to have a kid with me. He felt it was time for us to start a family. I was confused because I didn't expect this change of heart from him. I said I needed time to think, and he agreed to give me space. After a lot of reflection, I realized I wasn't entirely against the idea of having a kid, but I also wasn't excited about it. I knew having a kid would completely change our lives, and I would have to give up many things that I value. So I decided to make a list of 4 conditions that my husband would have to meet before I agreed to get pregnant. I thought it was fair since I would be taking on most of the risk and sacrifice. My conditions were: 1, he would have to undergo a fertility test to ensure he doesn't have any issues that could make conception difficult. 2, he would have to temporarily step back from his company and his brother's business, helping out for the first 2 years, similar to what his brother did when his wife had their first, occasionally assisting at the company, committing to share the baby's care more than equally without expecting me to do more than him. 3, he would have to accept that I choose the birth method I feel most comfortable with, whether natural or induced. And 4, he would have to agree to have a vasectomy after I get pregnant because I don't want to have more than 1 kid. I presented my requirements to my husband. He agreed to the first 3, but is refusing the 4th. I asked for reasons since we wouldn't have any more kids after this, but his responses were vague, fearing that something might go wrong. I'm still holding on to these requirements, but I'm also starting to reconsider if he doesn't agree soon. Not the jerk. I think it's reasonable if you're the one who has to go through the pregnancy. Vasectomies are reversible. Pretty sure the pain of giving birth is way worse than a vasectomy. Having requirements is perfectly reasonable and he's free to refuse. If you two aren't on the same page, which is okay, you need a split. Sorry, but I hate to see men get vasectomies at 29. I'm a nurse in the OR, and I remember thinking to myself, dude, this guy is making the wrong choice here. Men should only get vasectomies, in my opinion, after the age of 45, because life happens and things happen. Why would he ever want to get a vasectomy? What if you guys got a divorce? What if he, at 40 years old, met a woman that never had kids and now she wants a kid? You can't force him to do something like this. This is coming from a woman who has kids herself and a husband who is 45 years old, and I still don't want him to get a vasectomy. My daughter-in-law stole $17,000 from me. Now I'm suing her. They aren't actually married. I'm just referring to her as my daughter-in-law since it's easier for the sake of storytelling. Our son and daughter-in-law, who are 26, have been together for 2 years and they live together. We've always thought she was a very nice girl, and she seems to make my son happy, so no problem from us. Our son has his own law firm that he's currently trying to get started. We're very proud of him, and we're fortunate enough to help him with a startup loan. Daughter-in-law works a retail job that she's very happy with. Some time ago, husband and I were over at their apartment, and we decided to order some food. Husband and I wanted to pay, and since daughter-in-law was ordering from her phone, we gave her our card so that she could draw the money from our account. We thought it goes without saying that this was to draw an amount once for the lunch. However, daughter-in-law apparently put our card into her Apple Pay and has been using it ever since. We didn't notice for some months, but recently saw withdrawals that we didn't recognize. We had our accountant look into it, and he discovered that 1, daughter-in-law has been using our card on her phone, and that 2, she spent around $17,000. We were quite shocked and called her up and asked her why the heck she's been using our card. She got very defensive, trying to deny it, and eventually just said that she was entitled to it. And why do we care since we haven't noticed her use of it in over 4 months? We told her she needed to pay us back immediately or we'd report her actions for theft. She apparently doesn't have the money to pay us back. We've gone to our son and he's offered to pay us back, even though he actually cannot afford to. This isn't about the money for us, but more about the fact that she's stolen a huge amount of money. While we are comfortable, and it took us time to notice, we still recognize the seriousness of stealing $17,000. Our son has completely dismissed her behavior and excused it as her being stressed. She's taken no responsibility, and we're honestly wanting to go forward with the police report to teach her the consequences to her actions. Would we be the jerks for doing this? Not the jerk. $17,000 in theft is $17,000 in theft. Inexcusable behavior on her part. Don't sue, just report her to the cops. OP can and should do both. One, because her actions are criminal, and the second, to recover her money. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. If the daughter-in-law is this entitled, I have a feeling one day she won't have a problem stealing from the son's law firm or something else that could get him in serious trouble. The son is looking at things through rose-colored in-love glasses, but trusting a person like this can really ruin someone's life. Your son might be angry, but in the long run, you might also be saving him from a worse fate, OP. The audacity of this girl. I don't care who it is, how close I am to them, or how much money they have. Never in a million years would I ever steal like this. I wonder if she tried to tell the son it was an accident and her phone just happened to save the card. She knew exactly what she was doing. A broke person doesn't blow $17,000 in 4 months. They're careful with their money. I don't spend that much money on myself in 3 years, let alone 4 months. This was no accident, OP. Press charges. Someone who steals is not a person you can ever trust to have in your life. I don't care if it's $20 or $20,000. When someone is dishonest like that and is comfortable being dishonest, you need to cut them out of your life. Well, what do you think? Should OP sue her daughter-in-law or not? Please let us know. Absolutely. You can't just steal $17,000 from someone because you feel like it. Am I the jerk for regifting my boyfriend's present, a $1,300 laptop, to my sister? I, 23 female, love my boyfriend, who's 24 male, and we've been dating for about 2 years. He's always been really supportive, and our relationship is great. So when it came time for Christmas, I wanted to get him something really special. He's been complaining about his laptop for a while and has expressed the desire to upgrade to a newer model. I decided I would surprise him with a brand new laptop for Christmas. I wanted to get him the best laptop I could, so for the weeks leading up to Christmas, when he'd complain about his laptop, I'd take these opportunities to casually ask him about which laptop he liked, what he wanted in a new laptop, and so on. The main problem he had with his laptop was the speed, so I thought it would be fitting to get him the same model that he had, MacBook Pro, just the latest version. Now, I'm not a tech person. I don't know the first thing about RAM, SSD, etc. I just assumed a $1,300 laptop would be more than enough for his needs, so I bought the laptop without doing any more research into it. Christmas Day came and I gave my boyfriend the laptop. He was so excited until he saw the specs. When he saw that the laptop had 8 gigabytes of RAM, he was really disappointed because he couldn't get his work done on such a slow machine. He was adamant that he needed something with more RAM. This turned into a full-blown argument. I tried to explain to him that I had done my best and I spent a lot of money on the laptop, so he should appreciate it, but he wasn't having it. He said that he would rather return the laptop and get the one he wanted. At this point, I was really hurt and upset. I had gone out of my way to get him a really nice present, and I felt like he didn't appreciate it at all. Yes, I could return it and get him the one he wanted, but I had already spent a lot of money. The fact that he wasn't even willing to give it a chance really made me frustrated. So long story short, I decided to re-gift the laptop to my sister, who's 19. She's a college student, and I know that she could use a new laptop like this. I know it may sound selfish, but I didn't think it was fair that he didn't appreciate my gift, and I wanted to make sure the laptop went to someone that would actually appreciate it. My boyfriend is, to put it bluntly, really upset. He does not understand why I wouldn't just return it and get him a new one that he wanted, and cannot believe I would do something so selfish when I know how much he needs a new laptop. I feel kind of bad, but at the same time, this wasn't cheap for me, and a little appreciation would have been nice. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. Your boyfriend sounds like he was appreciative of your gift, but he needed a machine that can do what he needs it to. That's the risk of getting a laptop or something similar, cars, etc., without the involvement of the person you're buying it for. The correct action would have been returning the laptop and allowing him to put the money towards a machine that fits his needs. Not to mention, once you gift something, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It was his laptop, and you took it to gift it to your sister. Soft, you're the jerk. You seem to be placing more importance on your own need to feel validated in your gift giving, rather than wanting to make sure your gift will actually be useful and appreciated. I can understand why you would feel hurt and disappointed that your gift didn't have the intended effect, especially after putting a lot of money into it. But the gift was intended to fill a specific need in your boyfriend's life, and it doesn't meet that need. He shouldn't have to try to make do with inadequate equipment just because you spent a lot of money on it without doing further research. Since you knew and didn't have a lot of knowledge about what specifically he would need, a better idea may have been a gift card or money to put towards a laptop that he could pick out himself based on what he knows he needs and will use it for. Giving the laptop to your sister isn't the answer here. Put it another way. Imagine you drive a crappy old car to work. It's falling apart. You often complain to your boyfriend how crappy it is and how it barely gets you to your job, a 30-minute car ride away. Your boyfriend picks up on this and decides to surprise you for Christmas with a brand new bike. Sure, it's nice and very thoughtful, but it's not what you need to get to work. But just give it a chance. No, giving a bike the chance to be a car isn't realistic. It's just not the right gift. You're the jerk. You meant well, but your gift was not what he needed. You could have offered to return it and get a gift card to the computer shop so he could put the money towards something more expensive that fits his needs. But instead, you threw a fit and gave it away. Think a little next time before you react. There's often another, more reasonable solution. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. MacBook. Ugh. Everyone knows Microsoft is better than Apple. If I have a problem, I should take it to HR? Okay. This just happened today. So a little backstory. I work for a warehouse that specializes in computer equipment. It's generally very uneventful. Everyone is mostly nice to each other, except for one unsavory engineer. He had a reputation for being very belligerent and almost impossible to work with. But with a couple months left until his retirement, people tended to leave him alone. I knew all too well he would be gone by summer, so I decided not to engage with him until he was gone. Cue this morning when I went to the warehouse to do some small inventory, and up comes the engineer huffing and puffing. Without evidence, he started accusing me of messing around with some pallets he was working on. Calmly, I explained to him that I did not, and he can check the camera he installed in the warehouse to see that I did no such thing. He kept on insisting that I did, growing increasingly angrier and started going off on me in the warehouse full of people. But I did not waver, and calmly insisted that he can just check the security footage that he has access to, but he just kept going off on me. At this point, I calmly told him to breathe because he was getting out of control. And this is where it went from bad to worse. He started screaming and going off on me even louder, that he is 50 years older than me, and I cannot tell him what to do. I said nothing and watched as the engineer got redder and redder in the face. Eventually he yelled, "If you have a problem with how I act, take it to HR or the boss," and stomped away. So I did just that. I made a quick note of who was in the warehouse, noted the time, asked 3 people to be my witnesses of what happened. So up to HR I went and poured out every exhaustive detail I can remember. I explained that I've been in enough companies to know that kind of treatment and verbal mistreatment borderlines harassment, if not pure threatening behavior. I explained very calmly I'm not comfortable working in that environment, and I do not wish to escalate the situation anymore. I just wanted the incident documented and on record in case the engineer tried to twist the story to management. HR said they would take care of it. 2 hours later, I found out that the engineer was told to go home, and not even 20 minutes later after that, he had been made permanently working from home. And not even 20 minutes after that, I found out that all the engineer's credentials had been revoked, his remote access to the company network disabled, and his day-to-day duties were divided to other people. His final project is now to write up his tasks and how to do them. With 7 months left to his retirement, it's not looking very good that he'll be around until then. Christmas Karen wants boneless chicken breast. This was a few years back, but working this holiday season, I retold the story to coworkers and felt this was a good place to post it. To preface, I'm a career butcher, and at the time was working for the food hall. If anyone isn't familiar, the meat department becomes crazy around November and doesn't abate until after Christmas. We took holiday orders in person then, now mostly all online, unless they're odd. As you might imagine, the orders are usually for standing rib roasts, tenderloins, hams, turkeys, and ducks and geese. They really add up, and for my boss, sorting all the paper orders is a nightmare. Enter Karen. "I would like to place a holiday order." Me, gets relevant info. "Cool. What would you like on the 24th? Karen. 1 pound of boneless chicken. Me, oh, no problem. You actually don't need to order that. We'll have plenty of regular chicken, steaks, and burger. You only need to place an order for roasts, etc. Karen, I had to wait forever last year. This year, I don't want to wait, so I'll order it. Me, we'll have 2 lines, so if you're just coming to get regular items, you won't need to wait in the order line. But I want to make sure. At this point, I was already way done, so I decided I would comply, maliciously. I took her order, then proceeded to inform every single person in my department of the situation and the plan. The day of, she came up, told the guy at the counter she wanted chicken. Having been warned by me, he asked, "Did you pre-order it?" Karen, "Yes." Coworker, "Okay, let me go search through the sheet to find your order." "You can just grab it from the case." "No, we already have yours put away. I'll find it. I wouldn't want it to get lost in the cooler and go bad over Christmas." Karen is frustrated. "Okay." Coworker goes to our order book, searches through, and finds her name, and says, "Okay, I found you on the list. Now I just have to find your order." Coworker enters the cooler, and being how full the cooler was, it was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It took him about 15 minutes. At multiple points through the ordeal, other employees greeted her. She tried to get them to get her chicken for her, and they all told her, because I had warned them, that she had to wait for the one specifically put aside for her. I estimate that she waited almost 30 minutes, including line time to get to our counter. Edit. Since a few of you asked or remarked, I cut out most of our dialogue for clarity, as much of it was me trying differently worded ways to explain to her that placing an order would be self-defeating. She just wanted to avoid the line at the holiday table. Additionally, this was before lockdown, and we literally had never been out of boneless chicken, so I guaranteed she'd get them either way. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.